Did you know that humans invented gods before we understood the sun, storms, or death? But what if religion wasn't revealed truth at all? What if it was a solution to fear, chaos, and uncertainty? Why did we create religions, and who truly benefits from them? Let's explore the truth. Why humans created religion: the social, psychological, and cultural roots. Human life began in a world that felt unpredictable and dangerous. Storms arrived without warning. Diseases spread without explanation. The ground shook, the rivers flooded, and the sky changed color with no pattern people could understand. To the earliest humans, nature behaved like a powerful, unpredictable creature. It seemed to have moods, desires, and intentions. When the world feels hostile and nothing makes sense, the mind creates meaning wherever it can. Religion grew from that instinct. It offered a story for every fear and a purpose for every loss. It was a way to imagine that the chaos was not random, that someone or something was in control, even if humans were not. Early humans had no science and no tools for decoding nature. Lightning looked like a message. Plagues looked like punishment. A strong wind felt like a spirit moving through the world. Shadows in the night looked alive. The howl of an animal echoing through a valley felt like a warning from another realm. This was not foolishness. It was survival thinking. When something threatens your life, you search for cause and effect, even if the cause is imagined. A pattern that makes no scientific sense can still offer psychological comfort. And so religion became the earliest attempt to organize chaos into something that felt manageable. Across continents, people built belief systems shaped directly by their environment. In Egypt, the sun's steady daily journey inspired gods that rose and fell with it, because the sun meant life in a land ruled by desert. In Greece, the violent seas shaped myths of stormy tempers and unpredictable gods who mirrored the dangers of the waters. In ancient China, order and balance became sacred principles because harmony was essential for stable farming communities that depended on predictable seasons. In the Arctic, spirits were tied to survival in harsh climates. In tropical regions, fertility and growth took center stage. Religion was never born from universal truth. It was shaped by local needs, by cultural memory, and by the fears people carried from one generation to the next. But fear alone did not create religion. Humans are social creatures. We form groups, protect each other, share food, raise children together. Shared beliefs strengthen bonds. A story repeated around the fire becomes a memory larger than the individuals who tell it. It becomes a ritual, and rituals create identity. Religion provided shared identity long before nations existed. It told people who belonged and who did not. It gave rules for behavior at a time when law enforcement did not exist. It taught people how to treat each other, how to resolve conflict, how to distribute resources, and how to stay united. When a group agreed on the same sacred story, cooperation increased, and when cooperation increased, survival increased. Religion was not only a spiritual system, it was a social technology long before we had formal governments. It served as a glue that held tribes and early societies together. It provided explanations when knowledge was limited and unity when resources were scarce. The earliest rituals, sacrifice, chanting, burial ceremonies, were all ways of reinforcing community bonds. This is why moral rules appear in so many ancient traditions. The teachings of early Judaism gave structure to people wandering in harsh deserts, where order meant survival. The codes of ancient Hindu societies helped manage large populations with many social roles, helping maintain continuity across generations. The Buddhist call for discipline emerged in cultures seeking a release from constant suffering and instability. In many ancient African societies, ancestral religions shaped community ethics, tying moral behavior to respect for those who came before. All of these systems promised order. All of them turned moral instincts into divine commandments, giving them more weight than ordinary rules could ever have. The idea of watching eyes above you, tracking your behavior, reinforced obedience even when no one was looking. This belief was powerful. It lowered the need for constant policing because people monitored themselves. Religion became an early form of psychological governance, guiding behavior through fear, reward, and shared myth. It gave people a sense that their actions mattered on a cosmic level. Even the smallest choices seemed to carry divine consequences. That idea made societies more predictable and leaders' jobs easier. But the more people depended on these beliefs, the harder it became to question them. Religion was not just a worldview, it became the foundation upon which identity rested. Once a belief system becomes tied to identity, logic loses its influence. People defend their beliefs because losing them feels like losing themselves. That emotional bond made religion durable long after the original fears and confusions that created it were gone. Even when societies evolved and gained more knowledge, many held on to ancient beliefs out of tradition, community loyalty, or fear of social isolation. How religion became a tool for order, morality, and control. As societies grew, leaders recognized the immense power hidden inside belief. Religion could unify crowds faster than political speeches. It could inspire obedience without force. It could legitimize authority without debate. This is why temples, shrines, and sacred texts soon became intertwined with kings, emperors, and governments. When rulers claimed the blessing of the gods, they gained a level of authority beyond human questioning. Their power became wrapped in sacredness. In ancient Mesopotamia, rulers claimed they were chosen by the gods. In medieval Europe, kings said they held a divine right to rule. In parts of South Asia, caste roles were framed as holy order, turning social hierarchy into a spiritual truth. Throughout the Islamic empires, religious scholars held vast influence over legal and cultural life, shaping how societies functioned for centuries. The pattern is always the same. When leaders attach themselves to sacred authority, their power becomes unquestionable. Once obedience is tied to divine approval, resistance becomes sin. This shift transformed religion from a set of stories into a system of control. And over centuries, religious institutions became some of the wealthiest and most influential powers in the world. They owned land, commanded armies, collected taxes, and shaped laws. They decided who could marry, who could own property, who counted as a full human being, and who did not. Their influence reached far beyond spirituality and into nearly every part of daily life. Morality, too, was absorbed into religious rule. Instead of ethics growing from empathy and cooperation, morality was framed as a gift from the divine. Many people came to believe that kindness only mattered if commanded, that goodness only counted if rewarded by heaven, that wrongdoing was not a social harm, but an offense against invisible authority. This mindset allowed leaders to expand their influence into private life. The more behavior was tied to spiritual consequences, the more comprehensive control became. Entire groups were shaped by these systems. Women were given roles defined by male leadership. LGBTQ people were judged through ancient texts written in eras that had no scientific understanding of sexuality. Slavery was defended by many religious institutions for centuries because sacred writings were interpreted to support hierarchy. In each case, religion acted not as a liberator, but as a preserver of existing power. Religious stories also shaped attitudes toward suffering. When people believed that hardship was part of a divine plan, they stopped thinking their conditions could change. This mindset protected those in power by keeping the oppressed hopeful but passive. If justice would arrive in the afterlife, there was less pressure to create justice in the present. And this is where religion became most effective. It turned obedience into virtue and resistance into sin. It wrapped social order in the language of cosmic meaning. Entire populations were guided, not by reason or evidence, but by stories passed down through generations. Stories edited and rewritten, often to suit the needs of those who benefited most from belief. Even conflict was shaped by faith. When one group believed they were chosen, holy, or specially loved by the divine, and another group believed the same, hostility was inevitable. History is filled with wars, framed as sacred duty. Crusades marched under religious banners. Empires expanded with scripture in one hand and weapons in the other. None of this came from divine truth. It came from human ambition wrapped in the language of faith. The pattern is ancient but familiar. Religion explains what science has not yet explained. It shapes morality in ways that protect existing hierarchies. It provides identity and belonging. It gives leaders a powerful tool for controlling behavior. It creates tribes and boundaries. And once institutionalized, it becomes incredibly difficult to challenge. Why religion still has power in a world of science and reason. Today, we understand the universe better than any generation before us. We know why diseases spread. We know how planets form. We know that thunder is not a message and eclipses are not omens. Yet religion remains widespread. Its influence shapes laws, elections, education, and personal identity. The question is not why religion existed. It is why it endures. One answer is habit. When a belief system has been taught for thousands of years, people inherit it before they can question anything. Children absorb rituals, symbols, stories, and fears long before they understand the concept of evidence. The beliefs feel natural because they are familiar, not because they are true. Questioning them becomes difficult because doubt feels like betrayal. Not betrayal of an idea, but betrayal of family, culture, and community. Another answer is emotional comfort. Life is full of uncertainty. People lose loved ones. They face sickness, poverty, loneliness, and fear. Religion offers answers that soften the sharp edges of existence. It promises protection, purpose, and eternal reunion. These promises are powerful because they address emotional needs directly. It does not matter if the promises are true. What matters is how they feel. A third reason is identity. Religion tells people who they are. It turns belief into belonging. It marks who is inside the group and who is outside. This division strengthens loyalty but weakens critical thinking. Once belief becomes identity, questioning becomes dangerous. People defend their religion with the same intensity they defend their family name. A fourth reason is institutional power. Religious groups still hold political influence across the world. They endorse leaders, shape cultural norms, and influence legal decisions. Financially, many religious institutions remain wealthy and tax-exempt. Their continued power keeps belief systems alive because questioning them threatens more than theology. It threatens structures built over centuries. A fifth reason is fear. Many religions teach that disbelief brings punishment. The fear of divine judgment remains one of the strongest forms of psychological control ever invented. Even people with doubt struggle to let go because doubt feels unsafe. And yet, despite all this, humanity has grown beyond the world religion was created for. We no longer live in small tribes with limited knowledge of nature. We have science that explains reality more accurately than any sacred text. We have psychology to understand the mind. We have moral philosophy built on empathy rather than obedience. We have the ability to create meaning through relationships, creativity, and pursuit of knowledge. Religion insists that meaning must come from outside us. But meaning is something we create. It does not require the supernatural. It requires awareness, courage, connection, and curiosity. As the world moves forward, the challenge is not to destroy religion, but to recognize it for what it is: a human invention shaped by fear, expanded by power, and preserved by tradition. An invention that once helped societies survive, but now often holds them back. The real journey begins when people start asking simple questions. Where did these beliefs come from? Who benefits from them? Why are they protected from scrutiny? Once those questions are asked honestly, the structure becomes visible. Religion stops being an invisible background and becomes something constructed, something historical, something human. And when people understand that, they gain the freedom to build meaning and morality without relying on ancient stories written in eras that knew little about the world we live in now. Religion began as a tool for survival and grew into a force that still shapes identity, politics, and morality. But understanding its origins gives us the freedom to think for ourselves. If you made it this far, tell us what you think in the comments. And don't forget to like, share this video, subscribe for more.